Well, Betty, I'm very excited about today's program because here we are, we've just crossed the border, and we're going into the Czech Republic, and it's kind of exciting, isn't it?
Yes, it's something that you never dreamed it was going to be possible, huh?
No, I never thought I would do this. No, I'll tell you.
No.
And it's great that we're able to bring our viewers along with us, and we're heading for the first town. Of course, our big place where we're going to go to is Prague. Wonderful, wonderful Prague. And I'm all excited about seeing that city because I've heard so much about it. But let's listen to our guide as we tarry along.
Now, the town you can see ahead of us, this is Znojmo. This is the first town in the Czech Republic. Z-N-O-J-M for Mother O. Znojmo. First town in the Czech Republic. Now, what do we know about the Czech Republic? Well, we already know that they split from the Slovak side in 1993. Remember 5 years ago when we were in the Slovak Republic? I said it was the youngest country in Europe. It was created in 1993, 1st of January. Czechoslovakia existed only from 1918, after the First World War, because until then they were under the rule of the Austrians, the Habsburgs, so they spoke German in Prague. And they were ruled over by the Habsburgs, by the family from Austria, from 1620. So for 300 years, from 1620 until 1918. And the Czech, or Czechoslovakia as was created in 1918, and then in 1993 they split. The Slovak have their own president, their own currency, and here in the Czech Republic they have the Czech crown, they have their own president, their own parliament, they are completely separated. And the Czech Republic, I want you to look, we've got the, do you remember the loudspeakers we saw before in the villages? Remember I said this is where the, can you see them on the house, on the left, look, for example? When the communists were giving out the propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
We've got the loudspeakers again. So that tells you you're in former communist country. They haven't got round to taking the loudspeakers down. So the Czech Republic covers an area of nearly 50,000 square miles. So it's a small country. Again, it's landlocked, like Austria, Switzerland, Hungary, Slovak Republic, no seaport, and we're heading for the capital of the Czech Republic, Prague. And they have an unusual situation here. They have a president in the Czech Republic, and he's very popular. Does anybody know his name? That's right? President Havel. He's very, very much liked by the people, which is unusual, isn't it? And President Havel, he fought for the freedom of the people. He fought for the grievances against communism, you know, the inhumane conditions which the people had to live under during the time of the communists. And he was imprisoned. He was put in a labour camp for this. And he was also one of the men who signed what we call Charter 77. And this took place in 1977. They listed, he and other, what we call the intelligentsia, you know, the teachers and the educated people, you know, lawyers and doctors and so on. They got together, playwrights, authors and so on. Václav Havel, the president, he is a well-known playwright. I don't know if you've ever read any of his stories or his books or his plays, but he's a very distinguished writer. That was his profession. And he spoke out against the regime, and he, among others, in 1977 wrote this charter, which we call Charter 77, and they listed, he and his friends listed all the things which they wanted to speak out about against the communists. For this he was put in prison for several years, from 79 to 82 if my memory is correct. 3 years he spent imprisoned. He's not in good health. I don't know if you've read about him recently. He had a lung removed last year, and he had cancer. His wife died a couple of years ago, and he remarried recently, and he married an actress, what we call a trophy wife. She's much younger. He's about 62, I think, 61, 62 years of age. His new wife's about 40.
You know, this is very interesting. When she had mentioned the fact that that the communists, had these speakers all over town. Well, of course, all over all over the country.
Important places there, yeah.
Czechoslovakia. It sort of reminds you of a movie that you would see something like that in. I mean, I I wouldn't have thought that, but
that's what you're making.
What's that?
A movie right now.
Oh yeah, but no, but I mean, intrigue and suspense and all that
okay,
sort of
all
stuff.
right.
Anyway, there's a statue, and this happens to be for the Liberty that in the town square. That's what that statue was representing. There. See, now there's one of the speakers right there, and
Are they
she
still
said that,
activated?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, these were the communists used these for propaganda, and so they probably played the communist national anthem in the morning and all that sort of stuff. They're on the light poles there, and they're just all over the place, so they haven't taken them down.
They could still be used. They could have music coming through it. The music soothes the savage beast, and isn't that what it says? I think
that's
so.
true. I don't know. You've got to talk to them.
I think
hey,
so.
Some very important people came from this area throughout history.
You know that the Strauss family came from the Czech Republic as well, don't you, from Czechoslovakia? You know Johann Strauss's family? They were Czech people originally. Sigmund Freud was as well. He came from Moravia. Andy Warhol, his family came from the Slovak Republic. The house where his family lived is now a museum. The Warhol, they were from the east side, from the Slovak. Sigmund Freud comes from here. The Strauss family.
Well, we're going to leave this first town as we came into across the border there into the Republic, and we're going to, of course, head on to. But before we do, see this little car right here?
Yes, cute.
I was going to say we're going to head on to Prague. Yeah, but these cars are produced there. Now, that was not one of the good-looking ones. We happened to take a look in one of the showrooms, and the car is now winning awards, and I think Volkswagen actually bought these cars.
Well, what's the make?
Now, if anybody likes to drink beer,
Peggy!
hey,
Peggy!
then this is paradise. Because two of the best-known beers in the world come from the Czech Republic. One of them is called Pils, and the other one is called Budweiser. Yeah. In the Czech Republic, in the west, there is a town called Pilsen, where they first made the type of beer we know as Pils. You know which one I mean? The light beer? That's in the west part of Bohemia, and to the south there is a town called Česká Budějovice, and that is where Budweiser comes from, the original Budweiser.
And all this time I thought that Budweiser came from here. But I guess it does now,
Well, it does. That's what they just said. They does, but now they have the formula shipped over here now, and it's made.
Well, I'm sure everything is that way. I mean, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, the same thing, made all over the world. You asked me a question a little while ago about what the make of the car was that was made there, and I don't know the answer to that. I've forgotten what the make was, but I remember that our guide was telling us that some of the cars that we saw in Eastern Europe, at one time they weren't much more than a wind-up car. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I mean they were pretty little rickety, and they were very inexpensive as far as that was concerned. But now some of those cars have really come into their own.
Well, they're more affluent now. They can afford to pay for the petrol that they need to make them run.
Well, I think that people can afford to buy the cars too. I mean, they're no
yeah.
longer living under the communist system. So that being the case, I think that and the cars, the designers and the manufacturers have really probably come a long way with those. So it's really great. But again, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of that.
That's all right. I'm not going to buy one tomorrow. So.
Aren't you really?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. You will notice that the main highway goes right through the center of the little villages or the little towns that we're going through. Where does that remind you of, Betty?
Well, I don't know. There's so many places that it reminds me of where you do have the little towns and you go right through the main drag. And we've been on some roads that are even closer together, where the buildings are closer together. And this is the thing that always frustrates me. When we go in these little places, and I look around, I think, oh, let's stop. And we never can stop. We have to go.
Well, it's a good invitation to let you go back another time to spend time there, but you can't stop at every little village. You'd love to. It would be wonderful, but you'd have to take a trip for 2 months, something like that, to get there. I don't know. Countryside, I think, is very beautiful here, and of course the various crops that we've seen. We saw a little bit earlier, we saw grapes, and there's some corn and alfalfa, and beautiful crops. The land must be very, very rich here, because the crops just look so wonderful.
Well, I think that the weather is amenable to growing these kind of crops. They have good rain, and I guess the soil must be just fine. Obviously it
is, right.
Take a brain to figure that out.
Well, it's just great that it is. Hey, we're approaching another town. We're going to find out just a little bit more about it as our guide talks to us now.
Chilava, and this used to be very important for silver mining. And in a moment we're going to turn left, but you'll see in front to the left the old fortification walls used to surround the town, but very, very wealthy town from the 13th century onwards. The silver mines are now exhausted here. They were exhausted in the 17th century. So, Chilava, or it looks like Chilava, the name of the town, but very important for silver. And now you have a good view in front to the left. You see the old fortification wall with the lookout tower? As we turn left, this will be on your right in a second. And it's also running round to the right.
Boy, it must have been it's big walls.
Yeah, good walls, huh?
Everybody have that. The whole city, I guess.
Yeah.
So you see the walls very well preserved, aren't they? Here from the Middle Ages, over on the right. And shortly we're going to be joining up with the motorway. Once we get out of this town, this then joins up with the motorway, which will take us into Prague. The Czech name for Prague is Praha, Praha. So these are the signs we're following.
Well, this is quite a little town, I think, and she said, of course, it was a very wealthy town, I imagine, because of all of the silver.
I
this
love
is pretty,
that.
Isn't
Look
that?
at that
Clock
building.
tower.
You know,
Yeah.
that has an archway underneath it, and from olden times, I guess this is how they came in and out of the city with the
Evidently,
walls
yeah.
out around it, the fortress.
17th century, isn't that what you said?
Yeah.
That's really something. Well, it's really quite a beautiful town. You can see the structures there. A lot of churches.
Yeah, that's
A lot of churches.
Nice, yes.
And they look like they're in pretty good condition there too. I wonder what happened during, when the communists were here. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they weren't used as churches then. You could almost guarantee that.
Probably museums.
Yeah,
Huh?
of some kind, or office buildings, or whatever they would find need for them. But this little town itself, it's not really little, is it?
No, it's pretty
a
large.
Good size.
It's pretty large. And again, as we stated a little while ago, the highway goes right through there. But now we have gotten out into what is known as the motorway, I guess you would say.
I think
the
that's
motorway.
so funny to call. We call them freeways or highways, but
The
motorway.
motorway,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness!
And you can look and see now how the topography has changed a little bit. We've gotten a little bit higher there in the hills, or not really the mountains, but all of a sudden we have big trees and we have rolling hills, and so it's changed from the farmland into a little more of a forested area that we find between this town that we've just gone through, and now through the magic of television, we are on the outskirts of Prague, and the outskirts go for quite a ways before you get into the inskirts.
But now you don't do that.
You don't do that?
No, you don't
Okay.
do that. But this could be anywhere. I mean, we could be in San Francisco, Los Angeles, because the roads, when they do the highways, they do a fine job.
Beautiful
they
job.
really are beautiful, beautiful roads. So you can equate it with, any place. It's a good time to go to sleep, take a little snooze, and then wake up in Wonderland.
No, you're going to miss something.
No, on the highway. On the highway.
Oh, on the highway?
Yeah,
Well, I don't. Look at these buildings. I mean, that's beautiful.
I don't know why you say I don't know.
Beautiful.
You do it all the time.
Not me. I've got to have the camera
No
going.
way.
Oh,
Because
no.
you can't do all of the highways.
Well, a good portion of it.
Marvin, you are telling
A good portion. I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. You can always sleep at night, I mean, well, you don't want to have to. Why sleep on the bus? Well, maybe a little snooze for a couple of minutes.
Oh, my
or so.
goodness. You have. Oh, I think you're funny. That's a joke.
Okay, next time we go out here, I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to see who's sleeping. Now, remember, the guy that's got the camera has got to be awake, right?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Well, most of the time.
Most of the time. Okay, let's get into Prague.
The cathedral in the distance at 11 o'clock. There's a very large structure in front to the left. This is St. Vitus Cathedral, and this you will see tomorrow. And I know you've seen many churches in your time, and so have I, but I have to tell you, when you're going to St. Vitus's Cathedral tomorrow with a guide, think of me and look at those windows. They are the most spectacular stained glass windows I have ever seen. I won't be with you tomorrow, but the guide will take you in there. And the windows, the stained glass windows, are breathtaking. They are the most magnificent windows. You can take photographs inside. So don't forget your cameras tomorrow. St. Vitus Cathedral. So coming into Prague from the east, and you see when they have renovated the buildings, it's the difference between night and day. Look here on the left, you've got the green one on the corner, apartment block, and look next door where they haven't, And here, this is a nice shade of drab, this one on the left, look at this. Now, one of the main squares we're going to pass in a few minutes, and this is called Wenceslas Square. You know the Christmas carol, Good King Wenceslas? Well, he's the patron saint of the country, and there's a statue of him on Wenceslas Square, named after him. And this square might be familiar with you from 1989, when the government, the communist regime was about to be overthrown. There were up to 200,000 people on this square when they were in the dying stages, if you will, of communism. Towards the end of the... So follow me, Mr. Brooker.
Yeah.
Now this building in front of us with the green dome straight ahead, this is the National Museum, and this is at the top of Wenceslas Square. So we call it the Velvet Revolution, because in the end it was without violence, when the communist regime in these countries was finally overthrown. So here on the left now is the National Museum. This is the back side, the front is the other side of Wenceslas Square. Here on the left, this is a radio station, Radio Liberty, and then this yellow building on the left now is the Opera House, the State Opera House, but we're seeing them from the back. And then coming up down the front we have one of the railway stations of Prague, and if they renovate this will be very pretty, because it was done in what we call Art Nouveau style. Look above the first floor windows, all the ladies' heads, and here the main entrance. It badly needs renovating, but it was built in the style which was popular in Europe at the turn of the century. In French they called it Art Nouveau. But Prague is a wonderful city. Architecturally speaking, it's every corner, you want to take pictures all the time. Be very careful of pickpockets. I can't stress this enough. Here on the right, this is the Atrium Hotel, which is now the Hilton. When President Clinton came here a few years ago, this is where he stayed, in the hotel on the right. I stayed there, and I can tell you it's nothing special. And when I stayed there with a group and I said this is where President Clinton stayed, all they could say to me was it didn't stay in our room. Now the river, can you look to the left now? Can you see at 9 o'clock St. Vitus Cathedral on the hill? And this river is called in German the Moldau. for mother, OLDAU. And here on the right we have tennis courts. This is where they have the Davis Cup. And this island is in the middle of the river. You're going to see the rest of the river in a second. In the Czech language, this river is called the Vltava. But in German, remember they spoke German here for 300 years. It was ruled by the Austrians. Moldau.
So many people that I had talked to before we got to Prague here in the United States said, wait till you get to Prague.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful city. And we can see now we're not even in the old part of the city. But Betty, look, I mean, you've got the new buildings and the old buildings and bridgeways that go between the two. They've really kind of married it very nicely, haven't they?
I love the contrast between the old and the new, and you know where my heart leans is toward the old. Of course, the new is much more, you can be more comfortable in it, I'm sure, but look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it just beautiful?
It is. It's very, very nice. And this river is really quite beautiful, and there's a lot of boats that go up and down this, tour boats. As a matter of fact, we didn't take one because there was so much to see.
There was too much to see, but you know,
lots to
they
see.
do have dinner cruises on them, and which is lovely at night with everything is lit. They do things up very, very well, and they do cater to tourists. There's no question about it.
And she had mentioned something about the pickpockets, but I went out at night and I wandered the city, and there were hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people that were out at night until 1 o'clock in the morning, and the city was all lit up. I mean, it was beautiful. I felt very, very safe there.
Yeah, but you look like you don't have money, so they.
Well, that's true. I
don't think you'd be of interest to them, Marv.
Probably not. Hey, how did you get across the bridge?
I just took out my wings and flew across.
Did you really?
There I am, see, waving.
Yeah, okay.
No, I don't really remember. How did
that.
I get there? Did I swim?
I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
think
you must
so.
have walked.
I don't think.
Did you
I'm
take one of
more-
those boats over there?
I didn't take one of the boats over.
Anyway, on our next show, we're going to do a really complete city tour of Prague, and we'll be able to see some of the really beautiful areas of it. Of course, what we're seeing right now is not too shabby.
No.
But wait until we get to see these buildings and the monuments, the statuary. Yeah. Whoa, it's a real mind blower. But first, we have to have dinner, right?
Oh yes, and it was wonderful, and the management treated us all to wine with our dinner as a courtesy for us, and I thought it was great, and so did everybody else. We really enjoyed it, and it made the meal so festive.
We did.
As you can see,
nice.
Everybody's laughing and having a good time.
And waiting for the dinner to come, and just having a couple of sips of wine there, so it's really nice. I must explain too. We're going to see the outside of this building, and you remember, Betty, when we were in Warsaw. One of the main buildings, or the main building downtown, was very much fashioned, because it was built by the Russians, by the communists. It was very much fashioned after 7 of the buildings that you see in downtown Moscow. Well, guess what? Right here in Prague, in fact, the building that we're staying is now a Holiday Inn. It's a hotel. But it has the same style as what we saw in Moscow and also what we saw in Warsaw. And big areas, and there was beautiful gardens on the outside and back of it. In fact, there were other tourists, of course, that were staying there, and some of them did not eat in this area where we're eating, but ate in another area outside. And I was out there; it was sprinkling just a little bit. It was so nice, because we hit this in the summertime, and there were quite warm days that we had while we were there in Prague. But I was very impressed with this. It was very, very nice. The whole city was beautiful.
Well,
I want to go back.
Well, we are going to do that, but we're not going to go back in the year 2000 because it's going to be inundated.
Yeah,
in
there'll
the
be
year
too many
2000.
people there. Right.
So we'll probably do it 2001, and we have a better idea too of more places to stay, or how longer to stay in certain places, and maybe eliminating some of the other, because you do it sort of by. Well, you feel the atmosphere, and you feel what.
Well, maybe the next time we can stay a little longer in some of those little villages.
Oh, that's what
Wouldn't that
I
be
would
nice?
like. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
think
I
that would
would
be great.
let's find some way to eliminate those long highways.
Can't do that.
Maybe we could put wings on the bus, or motorized.
See, no, I don't mind that, because I love the countryside, and I love driving through those little villages, especially when the main highway goes right through the
But
villages
I'm
themselves.
not talking about going through the
What are you
villages.
talking about?
I like that too. I'm talking about the long stretches before you get from village to village. Well, I'm not good in.
I don't. Well, that's the time you're supposed to take your nap.
Well, that's we talked about it, and you said.
But I see it to me.
now you
I don't
came
recall
back.
any long. I don't recall any really long things there because there were just so many places where we stopped and it was just so exciting. So to me it was anyway. So it was just great. But anyway, I really loved this. This was some of the artwork that was in the hotel. Oh, hey, listen, this guy's going to play the piano for us. Well, the nice gentleman was playing the piano in the in one of the lobbies here in the hotel, and in the gift shop, it was interesting because here they had the blown glass musicians. Right, that was a really very nice job. Aren't those beautiful?
By the way, I'd like you to know that I actually left a tip for the pianist
I beg
because
your
he
pardon?
added to my pleasure.
You left a tip for
Yes,
the. Oh, that's
I
very
did.
Nice. Okay.
Because he added to my pleasure, and I
Wonderful.
don't always do something like that, you know.
Now, the remnants of communism, that's the hotel. And that looks like the building, of course, that we saw in Warsaw. And there's 7 of these, I believe. 4 or 7. I think
Well,
somebody
that's
said
close.
7.
4 or 7.
4
not
or
much,
7,
not
somewhere.
much difference.
Well, in Moscow, I can't remember. It's been so long since we've been there. But look, the red star is still
Uh-huh.
up there. You know, they didn't take that down. So anyway, and there were a lot of statuary on the outside of the building too. But it typically built in the Russian communist style of that particular period. And now Holiday Inn said, "Hey, wait a minute!"
Yes.
And they bought that and turned it into a big hotel. And it is
it's
a big place.
Very big and
Very big.
beautiful foyer and many dining areas. Our rooms were most adequate. And I was not
Big place.
unhappy with it.
And anyway, that's about all I can say about that. And I want to talk more about. I want to talk more about the. And if you look right in the distance, I want to talk more about the Old Town. But we're gonna have to
Tomorrow.
wait till the next. Till the next show to do that because we just run out of time for this one. And we'll have our local guide there that will take us through so you can see the beautiful parts of Prague, which everyone I talk to say you're going to love Prague, and they were right.
They were right, and you
right.
will love it. So don't forget to tune us
That's
in
right.
next time.
And if you'd like to know where we're going, just give Betty a call at
488-7443.
and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.